is the obvious recent complaints brought forth to our council 2 meetings ago. So I wanted to take this time and really speak to that and what the city's actions have been. And like we had mentioned, we take every allegation seriously. So we just want to, like I said, talk about it. I wrote down, with the help of our attorney's office, some points of discussion or points of I want to bring up. First of all, I want to thank the JT man and his family for having the courage and coming forth to our council. I know it'd be difficult to bring such allegations up in public, so we definitely encourage that from everybody, anybody in the public in our town to, whenever there's any concerns, to come forth and trust us. Like I mentioned many times, not only here but in my social media, we don't condone such disrespect or vulgar language or behavior towards anybody, especially from our council and as the mayor. And we encourage, like I said, all members of the public to come forth if there's any concerns with anybody up here, not only as the elected officials, but also any department heads or anybody representing the city of Livingston. We definitely took everything that was said in consideration, and I felt that it was urgency to act as soon as possible. We took immediate action. We immediately adopted the code of conduct the next following meeting. Immediately directed the city attorney's office to look into allegations raised by Mr. Mann. Like we had mentioned, the code of conduct clearly aligns the clear expectations and standards that each member of the council must hold themselves and our fellow council members to going forward. I don't know if you guys read the recent article at the Merced Sun-Star. Once the complaint was brought to the attention of the chief of police in November, the city manager and the attorney, they all took appropriate action, immediate action. And like I mentioned, this was back in November. The chief consulted with the district attorney from the county, who concluded that based upon the allegations raised by Mr. Mann, there was no criminal actions that took place. The professional evaluation of the complaint by the chief of police and the deputy district attorney both concluded that no criminal activity or violation had occurred, and therefore there was no legal basis to conduct a further criminal investigation. Based on the meeting between Mr. Mann and the chief in November, where Mr. Mann was informed of the conclusion of the chief of police and district attorney's office, the chief of police believed the matter to be resolved, and that was back in November. And then again, after Mr. Mann's public comments were made on January 5th, raising the allegations, the city took immediate action. Code of conduct was passed. And additionally, the city attorney's office has committed to remaining open and available to receive facts regarding the allegations raised by Mr. Mann. Attorney's office is obviously happy to speak with any member of the public via phone, email, text, any way of communication regarding the allegations brought forth on January 5th. I believe that the council has taken positive steps in over the past month to create a positive and collaborative environment. I think it is clear from our actions that this council is focused on inclusivity and bringing positive change for the city of Livingston and its residents. And then I'm going to go, I know it's lengthy, but it's very important that I cover this. Here's the timeline of kind of what we received and regarding dates and times. On November 6th, our chief, Soria, received a complaint letter from JT Mann detailing alleged comments made by council member Kang regarding his father, Major Mann, JT Mann, and Kushi Mann, which is his wife. On November 10th, 2020, at the direction of the city manager and city attorney, Chief Soria called the district attorney's office, Matthew Serrato, Merced County District Attorney's Office, to discuss the facts presented by Mr. Mann. The DA informed Chief Soria that there was no legal basis to bring criminal charges against Councilmember Kang regarding the alleged comments. On November 11th, our Chief Soria spoke to Mr. Mann to discuss the letter and the actions the chief had taken thus far. Chief Soria informed Mr. Mann that it was his opinion and the opinion of Mr. Serrato that the council member Kang had not broken any laws. During this conversation, the chief noted that Mr. Mann informed him that Mr. Mann considered the matter closed and did not wish to pursue any further actions against council member Kang. Moving forward to January 5th, obviously the allegations were brought to our council and publicly. The 7th, our office consulted with our firms, or the attorney's office consulted with Firms Labor and Employment Practice Group regarding the allegations and complaints made by Mr. Mann. Based upon those conversations, it was determined to gather more facts from Mr. Mann to discover whether a formal investigation will be required. On the 11th, our attorney's office interviewed the chief, obviously gathered all what had transpired, in regards to what information he had received, and that, the chief thought that this matter had been resolved. And it had been documented on 11/16/2020 from an email from Mr. Soria, or Chief Soria, to the city manager, or to the city manager and attorney. Our chief also stated that he had not heard from Mr. Mann after their November 11th conversation. On January 13th of this year, our attorneys conducted an interview with Mr. Mann regarding his comments. During this interview, Mr. Mann, without naming any individuals or projects or businesses or developers, or generally providing more details, it was difficult for the attorney's office to take any action. There was no details, no specific names or where we could reach or follow up or anything like that. Mr. Mann, didn't provide those further specifics, but stated he will see if any of the individuals will come forward and speak. Our attorneys also offered an opportunity for them to remain anonymous, but provide further details and facts regarding those allegations. On the 15th, the city manager forwarded some text messages shared by a Livingston resident, which depicted a vulgar and explicit language used by both the resident and the council member, and a conversation between them. The conversation appears to be from September 20th. There was no context to them from the messages shared. Nothing contained any information or anything that would indicate any criminal activity or violation or anything like that. On the 19th, obviously the city council adopts the code of conduct between the city council members and appointed public officials. On the 20th, there was a follow-up email to Mr. Mann seeking further facts or details, and no response has been received to this date. I believe you, Mr. Trevor, that's pretty much the information you have. Also collaborated with me in regards to what happened, kind of the timeline and the communication you had with Mr. Mann, Mr. JT, in regards to your office, correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. So I just want to, I know it was lengthy and there's a lot of information, but I just want to assure that the city council did take this matter seriously. This matter was, like I stated on the timeline, that it was originally brought forth back in November. I believe that our city manager, the attorney's office, and police chief acted appropriately by, taking immediate action to it, and seeking advice from the DA's office and doing what they supposed to be doing. So I have full faith in what they did, and then to move forward to the current allegations, we definitely acted immediately. We definitely had the attorney's office look into these matters, try to find more details, more witnesses, whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you want to say or call it, we didn't receive any further information or details, nobody to contact, call, verify. And so basically that's where we're at. Like I mentioned, we definitely have the door open. If there's any other details, any other information, we're happy to sit down and talk and look further. But ultimately, regardless, like I mentioned, we don't condone such behavior, whether it happened or not. Regardless, responsibility as elected officials is to be respectful and behave to our best at all times and with anybody here in town and elsewhere. I think like the code of conduct was very strong and really will hold us accountable with each other in regards to making sure we are respectful and don't condone such behavior. So that's maybe you guys have any further questions, feel free to reach out to myself, our city manager, our attorney's office, and we'll go from there. But it was very important that we at least gave an update publicly and assure that we have definitely looked into this matter, did our thorough assessment of the situation, and we just didn't ignore it or pushed it off or whatever the case may be. Thank you. And that's it for my report. And now we're